All right, week 0 college football breakdown here. We got a really interesting matchup in my mind. This is actually going to be my first official play of the season, at least from a game perspective. I've done, futures and season win totals and things like that, but as far as the game, it feels good, and I love this matchup. We got Illinois at home in Champaign taking on Wyoming. This line was around 10 for a while. It's anywhere between 10 and 11 now. Consensus number seems to be 10 and a half. So I went ahead and I'm going to go ahead and give this out at that number. I think Illinois wins this game by 2 touchdowns or more. Illinois is a team that I thought was undervalued last year. I mean, listen, for Brett Bielema in year 1, considering the program he took over, Lovie Smith really kind of ran that thing into the ground. For Brett Bielema to come in and play his style of football that early, I mean, 5-7 in his first year is an obvious plus, and a few huge road wins as well. I mean, they went on the road and beat Minnesota. They obviously went to Penn State. It was like a 9 overtime game that they ended up winning there. This team showed me a lot last year, and they got a lot coming back too. This offense was boggled down last year by pretty bad quarterback play. Brandon Peters didn't really work out, and then Artur Sitkowski, who's actually still on the roster, might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of mankind. But now Brett Bielema brings in Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito was a highly recruited guy, ended up going to Syracuse, didn't really work out there. But the one thing Tommy DeVito never had at Syracuse was a good offensive line. And I just don't think that's going to be the case here. I think if Tommy DeVito has time, he can be a pretty effective passer. 63% completion back in that 2019 season, almost a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Eventually, things kind of fizzled out at Syracuse, but I think pretty highly of Tommy DeVito. I really do. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a run-first team. I mean, Chase Brown a year ago, 1,000-yard rusher, 5.9 yards per carry. They've got 2 difference makers on the outside for Tommy DeVito to work with. I mean, Isaiah Williams was the guy that played quarterback at one time. I believe it was back in 2020, actually. They moved him to receiver last year, so he's got another year of continuity within this system. I think Isaiah Williams is a true X-factor player, but also Luke Ford. I mean, this is a guy that once went to Georgia, is now transferred to Illinois. I think he's going to be utilized a lot in this offense. Their offensive line only returns 2 starters, but Brett Bielema's offensive lines are always good. This is a pretty dependable unit last year. I think they'll be a good unit once again, especially, and listen, if they're not, they're not. But in this matchup, you're really not asking them of much. I mean, Wyoming is a team with a season win total in the Mountain West at 5 wins. They had just an atrocious offseason, had a lot of attrition through the transfer portal, lost some of their best playmakers offensively, lost their quarterback. I mean, but defensively, this is a team that I do expect to have some success in the pass rush, but I'm not expecting them to be as good in their interior defensive line. I think asking these Wyoming linebackers to go up against what should be a really good run game with Chase Brown is a tall task, and then they're really relying on all transfers in that secondary as well. It's obviously game 1. You're going on the road against a Power 5 team. I don't really like how that shakes out. So I tend to be higher on Illinois than most. I think this is going to be a better offense than a lot of people think, but they're probably going to have a really good defense once again. I mean, their strength is going to be their linebackers. Calvin Hart Jr. is a true X factor on that side of the ball. They obviously need him to stay healthy throughout the season if they want to compete in some of their tougher matchups. But listen, I mentioned earlier, Wyoming lost Levi Williams to Utah State, and they lost their top running back to Arizona State. I mean, this Wyoming offense is going to stink this year. They are horrible. I mean, Andrew Peasley, who actually comes over from Utah State, 54%, 6.5 yards per attempt, right around that 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He can be a good runner, but he's going to have a tough time matching up with a pretty physical defense like Illinois. This is just not a team that's going to be able to create explosive plays through the air. I mean, I think Illinois' secondary can certainly be beaten in some of their tougher matchups, but Wyoming lost their top wide receiver to Texas and Isaiah Nair. This passing offense, if they have success, which I don't think they will, it's going to be in that short to intermediate passing game. I see little to no chance that they're going to break off many, if any, big-time plays in the vertical passing game. I actually think Wyoming up front on their offensive line can actually match up somewhat well with this Illinois defense, but while they had success running the ball a year ago, I just don't think that translates well into this matchup, going up against a guy like Calvin Hart Jr. at that linebacker position, and with linebacker being a strength for Illinois. I said it off the top, but this is a game that Illinois should win by 14 plus. I really do. Thought it was actually a really positive year 1 for Brett Bielema. I wouldn't at all be surprised if this team in year 2 already finds their way to a bowl game. This is a lot easier matchup than people think, and I think Wyoming's going to have a really tough time moving the chain. So I thought 10.5 was extremely generous. This is a multi-unit play for me. My scale is usually 1.5, and 2 units, and this is the only play I've locked in so far for week 0. I'm going to have breakdowns for the rest of these week 0 games here on the YouTube channel. So if you subscribe, first of all, I appreciate that, and like the video. But if you go to playlists on the channel, it'll say week 0 breakdowns. Click that and I'll have all the other breakdowns for week 0 in that playlist. Just to be sure, though, if you want to see the rest of my plays for this week, once they do become official, you can follow me on Twitter at Fordham Betting. I'll obviously keep y'all up to speed there. You can also join my Telegram group. You'll get a text notification when I release or add any plays. I've done it every day for baseball this season, and that'll obviously continue into college football. So I'll leave the link to both of those in the description. Appreciate y'all watching. Like I said, like, subscribe, and comment your game prediction down in the comments. Once again, for 1.5 units, I like Illinois minus this 10.5. They're at home. They obviously had success in week 0 last year. I think Brett Bielema already has done a good job with that program. But this is a game that they should win by 2 touchdowns, if not more.